The human ship, small and unarmed, floated quietly through the edge of the nebula. Its hull was scarred and dented, a result of passing through a field of stray asteroids. Inside, Captain Han De-Hyan moved from console to console, checking instruments and monitoring the energy levels. His crew was tense but silent, aware that any wrong move could mean disaster. The survey had gone wrong. The star map data was incomplete, and now they were trapped in an alien region far from friendly space. Lee Se-Rin, the navigator, adjusted her glasses and peered at the display. "Captain, our propulsion system is holding at 20%. If we attempt to jump, we risk total failure." Park Yun-Shai, the engineer, shook her head. "We barely have enough power to maintain life support for 2 more days. We need outside help, or we won't make it." Han De-Hyan rubbed his face with his hand. The captain was used to stress, but this was different. They were not just facing danger. They were entirely alone in foreign space. He activated the communication array, sending a simple distress signal. "May someone hear us? Any ship, we are stranded. Please help." The signal was weak and likely to drift aimlessly into the void. Days passed with no response. The crew rationed food and water carefully, checking and rechecking every system. Tension grew, but none of them panicked. They were trained to survive and knew that patience and planning were their only weapons. Far from them, in a bustling alien trade hub, the situation was very different. A council of aliens debated the sudden appearance of the human distress signal. Most were indifferent or annoyed. Some even suggested ignoring the signal. It was old, weak, and from a species that had no real place in the galactic hierarchy. The aliens were concerned with trade routes, political influence, and their own survival. The humans were insignificant, easily forgotten. But among the council, one officer, a junior named Rilo, watched the signal closely. Something about the message bothered him, though he couldn't explain why. He had been trained to follow orders, to prioritize the rules above feelings, yet he felt a strange pull toward the humans. He reviewed the star map and saw the ship's exact location. It was deep in hazardous space, surrounded by asteroid belts and unstable gas clouds. If left alone, the humans would certainly die. Rilo approached his superior quietly. "Sir, we could send a repair vessel. It would be risky, but not impossible. They may not survive without help." The superior snorted. "We have no obligation. That is not our concern. Follow protocol. Leave them to their fate." Rilo hesitated. He thought of the human faces on the screen, the small crew struggling in silence. Something in him refused to accept that leaving them to die was the correct choice. Without fully understanding why, he made a decision that would change the future. He coordinated a small repair ship, discreet and unarmed, sending it on a secret mission to the stranded humans. It was dangerous. If the council discovered it, he would be punished. He justified it in his mind as mercy, a small act that might not matter in the grand scale of the galaxy, yet felt deeply necessary. When the human crew saw the small ship emerge from the nebula, their disbelief was evident. Han De-Hyan rubbed his eyes, thinking exhaustion had caused hallucinations. Lee Se-Rin nearly dropped her tablet in shock. Park Yun-Shai leaned back, shaking her head. "It's real. Someone is here." The alien ship docked carefully, and a team of engineers boarded the human vessel. They worked with efficiency and precision, repairing the damaged systems, recalibrating the engines, and restoring power. The humans watched silently, feeling a mix of gratitude and disbelief. They had been rescued when all seemed lost. As the repairs finished, Han De-Hyan approached the lead alien engineer. "Why did you help us?" "You didn't have to." The alien, Rilo, tilted his head. "It was the right thing to do. Perhaps it was foolish, but it felt necessary. The humans had no words to express their thanks. They knew they were being saved by someone who had risked disobedience and punishment, simply out of compassion. It was an act they would never forget. Before departing, Han De Hyan recorded the encounter in a personal log. A kindness given in the cold void of space will never be forgotten. Those who help us when we are weakest are remembered. The crew and I owe a debt to Relo and his team, a debt that may one day shape the future. The alien ship departed, leaving the humans with working systems and renewed hope. The crew continued their survey, but now with a deeper understanding of the vast galaxy and the unexpected allies that could exist within it. They had seen that even in a universe filled with danger and indifference, small acts of mercy could have a lasting impact. As the human ship left the nebula behind, Han De Hyan looked out into the dark expanse, thinking about the aliens who had helped them. He knew that one day humanity would remember this moment. Perhaps when the time came, they would answer a call, no matter how far or how improbable it seemed. The memory of Relo and the kindness shown would remain etched in their minds. A quiet reminder that even small acts of courage and compassion could ripple across time and space, shaping destinies in ways that no one could foresee. Years passed since the humans had been rescued by the aliens. Humanity had grown, spreading through nearby star systems, learning new technologies and building stronger ships. They had become a quiet but growing presence in the galaxy. Captain Han De Hyan, Lee Si-rin, and Park Yoon-chai had continued their careers, leading survey missions and training new crews. The memory of their rescue was always with them, a story told to young officers as an example of loyalty and gratitude. The galaxy itself had changed. Some alien civilizations grew powerful and aggressive, seeking to control trade routes and resource-rich systems. Others became isolated, wary of conflict. The small alien coalition that had once helped the humans struggled to defend their borders. They were beset on all sides by enemies and lacked the strength to protect themselves. Trade was disrupted. Colonies were threatened, and panic spread across their worlds. On one of the coalition worlds, the council gathered to discuss the worsening situation. Many argued for surrender, suggesting they reach out to stronger neighbors for protection. The councilors knew their fleets were insufficient and feared destruction. The system felt like a cage, with no escape from the advancing enemies. It was during this council session that a young officer, still remembered as Rilo, spoke up. He was older now, but still held the memory of the humans he had helped. "There is one option we have not yet tried," he said, his voice firm. "Centuries ago, we helped a human crew. They will remember. We must send a call to them." The other counselors laughed at him. "You speak of a species that barely exists in the galaxy, and you expect them to come to our aid?" they asked. "They are far away, and we have no bond beyond that one incident." Relo's face hardened. Yes, it was only one crew. But humans remember. They do not forget those who showed them mercy. If we send the signal, they will answer. We owe them nothing, yet they may still come. Some counselors shrugged, seeing little harm in trying. They authorized the use of ancient communication frequencies and sent out a weak but clear message, carefully crafted to convey urgency and desperation. It included coordinates, a description of the enemy threat, and a plea for help. The transmission was based on the old Terran logs, hoping that someone would notice it. Meanwhile, in human space, the signal arrived unexpectedly. Terran ships were scattered across many systems, some patrolling trade routes, others on exploration missions, and some on long-term assignments near distant stars. The signal was faint, almost lost among the normal cosmic noise, but advanced Terran AI systems detected it immediately. The words were simple, but the meaning was clear. Someone they had once helped was in trouble. Captain Choi Yun-seok was the first to notice the message during a routine patrol near the outer edge of the Sol Alliance territory. He stopped his ship, studying the signal. It was old, formatted in a style that only someone with deep knowledge of Terran communication could recognize. He called his crew together. "This is unusual. Someone is asking for our help. The coordinates match a system outside our usual patrol routes, but I recognize the protocol. This is not just a random call." The crew checked the records and found logs from previous missions. Hidden in old archives were notes by officers who had encountered unknown alien civilizations, including records from Captain Han De Hyan and his crew. The AI systems cross-referenced these logs with the signal and confirmed that it matched exactly the parameters from the centuries-old documentation. Choi Yun Seok made a decision. "Prepare the ship. We are going to answer this call. Regardless of who they are or what has happened, no one we once helped is left to face danger alone." Across human space, other captains received the same signal, and each reacted in the same way. Commander Kang Mira, aboard her fast patrol vessel, paused mid-jump and adjusted her course. Admiral Lim Jae-won, overseeing a massive carrier group, ordered a fleet assembly. Orders were not needed. Instinct, training, and memory guided them. Every Terran captain understood that a debt of mercy, no matter how long ago, demanded a response. Back on the alien coalition world, the counselors were skeptical. They watched as tiny blips appeared on their sensors. Ships from distant systems moved rapidly, faster than expected. Panic mixed with awe as fleets arrived in formation, warships of every size and style from humanity. It was not just one ship, nor a small patrol. Entire fleets were converging on the coalition worlds. The first human ships entered the system silently, careful not to alarm the coalition forces. Their commanders coordinated without verbal orders, each ship knowing its role through training and memory. The aliens were stunned. They had called for help, hoping for a single response, maybe one squadron, but the Terran fleets kept coming, thousands of ships stretching across the void, arriving from every nearby star system. Han De Hyan, now a retired advisor, but present through recorded commands and logs, watched the unfolding events from his office. He smiled as reports came in. The humans were following the principle he had always believed in: a kindness given is never forgotten, and a debt of gratitude is stronger than any contract or weapon. What had begun as a small act of mercy was about to demonstrate the true strength of humanity. The Terran ships took positions around the coalition worlds, forming protective barriers and patrol patterns. Enemy ships began to arrive, expecting easy conquest, only to find the entire system surrounded by a fleet larger and more organized than anything they had imagined. Communication attempts from the enemy were ignored or met with clear warnings. Terran crews were disciplined, efficient, and silent in their presence, letting the fleet formation itself speak volumes. The humans and their ships did not seek glory or dominance. Their purpose was simple: protect those who had once shown them mercy. The alien coalition watched in amazement as the Terrans coordinated attacks and defensive maneuvers, testing enemy positions and cutting off supply lines without engaging unnecessarily. The display of strategy, skill, and unity was breathtaking. On the Council world, Relo and the older members of the alien coalition felt a deep sense of relief. The humans had come. They had not forgotten. Their intervention was precise, overwhelming, and respectful. For the first time in many years, hope returned to the council chambers. They realized that humanity, though once small and vulnerable, had grown into a force that could not be ignored. And more importantly, they remembered kindness and repaid it without hesitation. As the Terran fleets positioned themselves, enemy ships hesitated. They had heard stories of human persistence, but none had expected the full display of unity. The fleets were ready for combat if necessary. But the message was clear. Anyone who attacked would face the full might of humanity. The humans did not boast or threaten. Their presence alone was enough to change the balance of power in the system. Through the galaxy, the story of the Terran response began to spread. Other species watched, took notes, and quietly reassessed the place of humans in galactic politics. A species once considered insignificant was now a force that honored loyalty, acted decisively, and commanded respect. The humans had become legends, not because they sought conquest, but because they never forgot and always acted on the debts of mercy and friendship. And so the stage was set. The humans had arrived, the coalition was protected, and the galaxy began to learn a lesson about the consequences of kindness, memory, and unity. The simple act of saving a small crew many years ago had created ripples. That now spanned light years, and the Terrans were ready to ensure that those ripples would become waves that no enemy could ignore. The Terran fleets moved quietly through the void, their engines producing a steady hum that resonated across their massive hulls. Captain Choi Yoon-seok stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the formation of ships through the viewing screen. The fleet was vast, larger than any human had ever seen assembled in one place. But there was no boastfulness or pride. Every captain and crew member knew why they were here, and that understanding gave them purpose. Commander Kang Mira checked the status of her patrol vessels. Communications with the larger warships remained minimal, just enough to maintain coordination. The Terrans did not speak in empty commands. Each officer trusted the other to act correctly, guided by training and instinct. Even the youngest cadets felt the weight of responsibility, yet they moved with confidence. Admiral Lim Jae-won's voice came through the comms channel, calm and deliberate. Maintain your formation. Monitor enemy movement. They will not expect our full presence so soon. Remember, we do not attack unless absolutely necessary. The coalition asked for our help. We are here to protect, not conquer. The alien coalition leaders watched in awe from their planetary command centers. Systems that had once been quiet and vulnerable now buzzed with activity. Alien engineers and officers stared at the displays, counting Terran ships in disbelief. They had not expected even a single fleet, let alone thousands of ships arriving from multiple sectors. It was a show of power and unity, unlike anything they had ever witnessed. Relo paced the council chamber, his older frame carrying the weight of years, but his mind sharp. They remember exactly what we did, he said quietly to a younger officer beside him. They came not for reward, not for trade, not for politics. They came because we once helped them. That is the Terran way. They honor every debt. Meanwhile, enemy forces entered the system, expecting an easy victory. Their scouts reported small resistance forces, but nothing that suggested a coordinated defense. They laughed among themselves, confident in their strength and the weakness of the coalition. They did not realize that the humans were already present, positioned silently, and ready to act if provoked. On Choi Yoon-seok's bridge, officers tracked the enemy movement. Sensors picked up hundreds of hostile vessels, but the Terran formations remained steady. Keep scanning, Choi said. We need to understand their numbers and positions before we engage. We must avoid unnecessary damage to the coalition worlds. Park Yoon-shai, monitoring the fleet's energy distribution, noted minor fluctuations. Their weapons are powerful, but uncoordinated. If we strike at key points, we can neutralize them without destroying everything around them. The fleet continued to maneuver silently, a vast and precise machine. Terran captains made micro-adjustments to their paths, maintaining tight formations while ensuring each ship had clear firing arcs. The level of coordination was extraordinary. Even in the most dangerous parts of the system, no ship collided or lost position. The humans had trained for this, but the scale was unprecedented. As the enemy forces advanced, their arrogance grew. They underestimated the Terrans, assuming that distance and the passage of time had weakened humanity's resolve. But every Terran officer, from Choi Yun-seok to Kong Mira, knew the truth. Humanity did not forget kindness, and they never ignored a call for help from those who had once assisted them. In the Coalition command centers, alarms went off as enemy ships tried to engage. They expected minimal resistance, yet their attacks were blocked effortlessly. Terran vessels adjusted positions, forming barriers and creating strategic choke points. Enemy projectiles were intercepted, and advanced countermeasures neutralized attacks before they could reach Coalition cities. Admiral Lin Jae-won's voice came over the comms again, calm but firm. Hold your positions. Do not overextend. Wait for my signal. The humans are patient. The enemy will make mistakes, and when they do, we will be ready. The enemy began to realize their error. The Terran fleets were not just powerful. They were intelligent, organized, and patient. Every move the enemy made was anticipated, countered, or blocked. Their confidence started to crumble as they saw their ships fall one by one to well-placed strikes that minimized casualties among the Monka. Coalition Worlds.RIL watched in disbelief. He had hoped for help, but the scale of the Terran response exceeded any expectation. Ships that had once been a mere curiosity in human space were now legendary warships in formation, executing complex maneuvers with ease. He understood that the humans were teaching the galaxy a lesson. Memory, loyalty, and unity were more dangerous than any weapon. Choi Yun-seok's fleet began to apply pressure, targeting enemy supply lines and communication hubs without unnecessary destruction. The enemy scrambled, attempting to reorganize, but Terran ships moved faster, adapted quicker, and struck with precision. They did not seek to destroy for the sake of conquest. Their goal was to neutralize the threat and protect the Coalition worlds. Each action was deliberate, controlled, and guided by the principle that a kindness must be repaid in full in the midst of the action. Kong Mira coordinated with smaller ships to patrol critical areas. Her voice was steady, her orders clear but minimal. Check the outer sectors. Ensure no reinforcements arrive. Keep the civilians safe. We do this not for glory, but because it is right. The enemy finally began to retreat, realizing that they had underestimated both humanity and the bond formed by a single act of mercy years ago. Their arrogance had been their downfall. Coalition worlds that were once on the brink of destruction now breathed freely, watching as the Terran fleets maintained positions around them. Ensuring no further attacks could reach their cities, Relo stood silently, understanding the full measure of what had happened. The humans had arrived without need for instruction or incentive. They had acted on memory, on principle, and on loyalty. What he had once hoped might happen was now a reality beyond imagination. The Terrans had reminded the galaxy that kindness, once shown, would always be repaid. Captain Han Dae-hyun's personal log, recorded years ago, seemed to echo in the minds of the Terran crews. A debt given is never forgotten, and those who show mercy are never abandoned. This simple principle guided every action, every maneuver, and every decision. It was the quiet strength of humanity, amplified across fleets and light years, that now protected a civilization that had once extended a hand in need. The fleets began to regroup after the enemy retreat. Coalition leaders approached the Terran commanders with gratitude, their voices trembling with relief. Relo spoke quietly to the assembled Terran officers. "You have saved us beyond measure. Words are insufficient, but your presence has made all the difference." Choi Yun-seok responded simply, his tone calm but firm. "We only did what was right. Your people helped our crew once. We remembered. That is all the reason we need." The message spread throughout the galaxy. Humans act with memory, loyalty, and unity. Their strength was not only in ships or weapons, but in the principle that every debt must be repaid. The story of the Terran response would inspire fear in those who sought to exploit others, and hope in those who extended mercy, teaching a simple but powerful truth. Kindness, when remembered, becomes a force no one can ignore. As the Terran fleets left the system, the Coalition world safe for now, every officer and crew member carried a quiet pride. They had honored a debt, repaid a kindness, and reminded the galaxy that humanity, even after years and light years, always answered the call. The Terran fleets held position around the Coalition worlds, their formations stretching across orbital space. Ships of every size and design moved in perfect synchronization, creating an unbroken barrier that prevented enemy forces from advancing. Captain Choi Yun-seok surveyed the fleet from his bridge, noting the calm efficiency of every crew member. There was no fear, no hesitation, only focus. They knew their purpose, and they carried it out with quiet precision. Commander Kong Mira monitored the outer sectors, her eyes scanning for enemy reinforcements or hidden threats. Sensors detected movement, small enemy scouts attempting to slip past the Terran lines. She activated defensive protocols, and the scouts were neutralized without incident. Each action was deliberate, avoiding unnecessary destruction while ensuring the safety of the Coalition worlds. Admiral Lim Jae-won coordinated with captains across the fleet. "Maintain readiness," he said. "We do not attack without cause, but we must be prepared for anything. Protect the Coalition, and remember our principle. We honor those who helped us when we were weak." His voice carried the authority of experience, and every officer followed without question. On the surface of the Coalition planets, citizens watched the Terran ships with awe. Their eyes followed the massive vessels as they formed protective patterns above cities and spaceports. Children pointed at the sky, dreaming of a day they might travel among the stars. For the first time in years, hope replaced fear. The humans had arrived, not to conquer, not to claim, but to protect. Relo moved among the council chambers, speaking to his fellow leaders. "We once helped a human crew when they were stranded. They have not forgotten. Look at them now. They are not just saving us. They are showing the galaxy what it means to honor a debt." He paused, watching a Terran frigate adjust its position. Their strength is not only in their ships or weapons, but in their loyalty. That is what makes them unstoppable. The enemy commanders, observing the Terran fleets, realized the enormity of their mistake. They had assumed the humans were distant, distracted, and unlikely to intervene. They had been wrong. The Terrans moved with purpose, and every captain understood their role without being told. The coordination was flawless, and the enemy had no clear path to exploit. Choi Yun-seok activated communications to a small enemy contingent attempting to enter the system. "You are surrounded. Withdraw immediately. No harm will come if you comply. Any attack will be met with full force. Remember, we are here to protect, not destroy. Choose wisely." His tone was calm, commanding, and unwavering. The enemy hesitated, realizing that any aggressive action would be disastrous. Some ships attempted to retreat, while others tried to form attack formations. The Terrans anticipated each move, adjusting their positions to block escape routes and neutralize threats without causing widespread destruction. It was a lesson in strategy, discipline, and patience. Park Yoon-shai monitored the energy distribution of the fleet, ensuring that defensive shields and weapon systems were balanced for maximum efficiency. She noted minor variations and made adjustments instantly. Shields on the outer perimeter are stable. Weapons are ready, but remain on standby. We have the advantage. We only need to maintain it. Her words reflected the confidence of a crew that knew its abilities and the principle guiding their actions. As the hours passed, the Terran presence became a symbol of certainty. Coalition worlds that had been on the brink of panic now experienced a calm they had not known for decades. Trade and communication resumed, repair crews worked without fear, and citizens moved freely. The humans had brought stability without, demanding control, demonstrating that power could be used responsibly and honorably. Relo and his council met with Terran officers, seeking advice and coordination. The humans did not lecture or command. They offered guidance and shared strategies to defend key sectors. Every suggestion was practical and easy to implement, reflecting the Terran belief that knowledge and preparation are as valuable as weapons. The aliens followed instructions carefully, amazed at the efficiency and thoughtfulness of the humans. As enemy forces regrouped in distant sectors, they understood that the Terrans had not merely arrived to react. They had arrived to dominate strategy and control the battlefield. Every fleet maneuver was calculated, every defensive position secure. The enemy began to retreat, recognizing that further engagement would only lead to destruction. Humanity had shown restraint, but they were relentless when protecting those who had once shown them kindness. Choi Yun-seok watched as enemy ships turned away, their confidence broken. He did not celebrate. There was no need. The coalition worlds were safe, and that was enough. Commander Kang Mira coordinated with smaller fleets to monitor escape routes, ensuring that no enemy ship could regroup to threaten civilians. The Terrans were thorough, leaving no gaps and no risk of renewed attacks. Relo stood quietly, observing the fleet from a viewing platform. They have saved us, not for reward, not for tribute, but because it is right, he said. That is a lesson we will never forget. They act on memory and principle, and that is why they are a force no one can ignore. The council members nodded, understanding that the humans had changed the balance of power in the galaxy. Without seeking glory or control, the Terran fleets began to reposition, preparing to leave the system once their presence was no longer needed. Ships moved with the same precision as when they arrived, a silent reminder of their discipline and coordination. Citizens of the coalition worlds watched from the surface, waving at the departing vessels, grateful for the protection they had received. The humans had come, fulfilled their mission, and would leave without demanding anything in return. Admiral Lim Jae-won addressed the fleet one last time before departure. Our purpose is complete. The coalition worlds are secure. We will leave now, knowing our debt has been honored. Remember, we act not for recognition, but because it is right. We honor those who helped us when we were weak. Let this be a lesson to all who watch. Kindness is remembered, and loyalty is powerful. His words echoed through the fleet, understood by every captain and crew member. As the Terran fleets departed, the coalition worlds experienced peace for the first time in many years. Relo and his council knew that the humans had not only saved them from immediate danger, but had also set a standard for the galaxy, a civilization that honored kindness and repaid debts. Was a force that could not be underestimated. The memory of the humans' arrival would remain with them forever, a symbol of hope, unity, and the quiet strength of a species that never forgot. The coalition worlds were safe, their citizens able to move freely without fear. The Terran fleets had withdrawn to a distance, maintaining a watchful presence while allowing the coalition to regain control. Captain Choi Yun-seok reviewed reports from the fleet, noting that every system was stable, every city secure, and every enemy unit either neutralized or in retreat. There was no celebration. The humans did not seek recognition. Their mission had been to protect, and they had fulfilled it completely. Commander Kang Mira prepared her ship for the journey back to human space. She checked systems, ensured that all patrols were accounted for, and coordinated with the remaining coalition forces. Everything is in order, she reported to her captain. The worlds are safe. We can leave with confidence. Choi Yun-seok nodded, satisfied with the precision and efficiency of the operation. Admiral Lim J1 addressed the fleet through comms. Prepare for departure. Our task is complete. Maintain alertness until we are clear of Coalition space, but understand that our mission was never about power. It was about loyalty and repayment of a debt. This principle will guide us always. His calm, commanding voice was met with quiet acknowledgement from the captains and crews throughout the fleet. On the surface of the Coalition worlds, citizens gathered to watch the departure of the Terran fleets. Children pointed and waved, elders bowed in respect, and leaders of the Coalition Council stood silently, overwhelmed with gratitude. Relo walked among them, his face reflecting pride and humility. "They have done more than protect us," he said softly to a counselor beside him. "They have shown us what it means to be honorable, to remember kindness, and to act without expectation of reward." The fleets moved in formation, leaving the system with the same precision and care as when they arrived. Terran ships avoided densely populated areas, carefully navigating past orbital stations and planetary defenses. Their presence was a reminder of the discipline and thoughtfulness that guided every action. The humans were not conquerors. They were protectors, disciplined by principle rather than ambition. Not as they traveled, Choi Yoon-seok reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Years ago, a small human survey crew had been stranded in alien space, saved by an officer named Relo. That single act of mercy had rippled across time and light years, creating a debt that humanity had now repaid in full. The scale of their response was immense, yet every officer and crew member understood that it was not the size of the fleet that mattered, but the principle behind it. Commander Kong Mira looked out the viewing port at the stars. "It is amazing," she said quietly. "We acted for someone we may never see again, yet we risked everything to protect them. That is humanity at its best." Park Yoon-shai nodded, checking energy levels and confirming that the ships were running efficiently. "We don't need recognition," she said. "What we did is enough. They will remember, and that is what counts." Admiral Lim J1 coordinated with Terran captains across the fleet. "Ensure that all logs are updated. Every decision, every maneuver, and every interaction should be recorded. Let future generations know that humanity honors its debts. They will learn from this, and so will the galaxy." His instructions were followed diligently, each ship maintaining detailed logs of their actions and communications. In the Coalition worlds, Relo and his council met with Terran officers one last time. They discussed rebuilding, defense strategies, and future cooperation. The humans provided guidance without interference, offering advice and training to strengthen the Coalition's fleets and systems. Every suggestion was practical, easy to implement, and focused on long-term stability rather than immediate gain. The aliens were grateful, understanding that humanity's assistance was a gift born of principle, not politics. The enemy forces, having retreated, reassessed their strategy. Reports of the Terran response spread quickly across their command centers. They realized that humanity was not a species to be underestimated, not because of technology alone, but because of their unwavering loyalty, memory, and unity. The humans had demonstrated that a debt owed would be repaid with overwhelming force if necessary, and that principle guided every action. Back in human space, the fleets began to disperse, returning to patrol routes, exploration missions, and distant assignments. The officers and crew carried the experience with them, a quiet pride in their actions. They had honored a debt, protected the innocent, and shown the galaxy the strength of humanity. Choi Yoon-seok reviewed reports and smiled at the efficiency and discipline of the operation. Every crew member had performed flawlessly, understanding instinctively the principle that guided them. Commander Kong Mira recorded her personal log. "We went to protect those who once helped us. The mission was successful, not because of power or technology, but because we acted according to our values. Humanity is strongest when it remembers, when it honors kindness, and when it acts with unity. This is a lesson that will remain with us, and one we will carry forward. Her words reflected the quiet heroism of the crew, who understood that actions, not accolades, define true strength. Park Yoon-chai worked on system diagnostics, ensuring that every ship remained ready for future operations. "We will always be prepared," she said quietly, "prepared to repay a debt, prepared to protect, and prepared to act when it is right. That is the true meaning of our duty." Her words resonated with the crew, each understanding that their actions were guided by principle, not ambition. As the fleet spread out across human space, the story of their actions began to reach other species. Reports traveled slowly but deliberately, carried by sensors, scouts, and diplomatic channels. Aliens spoke of the humans who remembered every act of kindness, who acted decisively when called upon, and who protected those in need without seeking reward. The reputation of humanity grew, not through conquest or threat, but through honor, loyalty, and the quiet strength of principle. Relo and the leaders of the coalition worlds watched the departure of the last Terran ships, understanding the full measure of what had occurred. "They have changed the galaxy without demanding anything in return," Relo said softly. "They have shown that kindness is a force, that memory is a weapon, and that loyalty can shape the stars themselves. We will remember, and so will the galaxy." The council members nodded, acknowledging the lesson and the debt that had been repaid. Captain Han De-Hyan, observing from his office in human space, reflected on the journey. A small act of mercy years ago had created ripples across time and light years, leading to this moment. The humans had answered a call, not for glory, not for gain, but because it was right. The principle of repayment and honor had guided them, and the galaxy had taken notice. As the stars stretched endlessly before them, the Terran fleets continued their patrols, always vigilant, always ready to act on principle. The memory of the humans' actions would be carried in the hearts of those they saved, in the minds of future generations, and across the galaxy as a reminder that kindness, once given, is never forgotten, and loyalty is the strongest force of all.